Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Jesse, and this is the Auditorium. I react to video game music for the first time. And today is the debut, and something I've never even heard about. This is Starsky and Hutch, and we're listening to track 2 and track 5. That is the only name from the channel G Dre Band, requested by Tornhire. Thank you very much. And apparently, this is Tim Follin. And I should reiterate what I said about not hearing about this. I meant the game. I've heard of Starsky and Hutch. It was before my time. The only thing I know about it briefly is that it was like a TV show in, I want to say, the 70s, but I'm not entirely sure, maybe 60s. But I do remember seeing the movie adaptation with Ben Stiller, I know, and Owen Wilson. I used to own that DVD. Remember DVDs? And I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. You know, Snoop Dogg's in it, and it was pretty funny. And I don't know how faithful it was, but it was funny. You know, it's one of those dumb movies you just put on. This I've never heard of, because you know what this looks like to me? This looks like one of those games, and I'm not trying to like talk down on it, but there's like games you see at like GameStop or regular stores or whatever, and then there's like, to me, when I see this, I imagine like the Walmart video game bin that's like $3 or less or something. It's just like at the bottom. I don't know why. It's just like when it comes to like movie adaptation stuff, but who knows? Maybe the game is just super, super cool. I have no idea. Either way, I could tell you that this requester slash one of my original moderators has always had an amazing taste in music. So, and it's Tim Follin. Also, one tiny thing before I get started. I don't even know Tim Follin worked up until the PS2 era. I thought he was like mainly like a 90s dude. Learn something every day. Anyways, this is track 2 from Starsky and Hutch, PS2. There hasn't been a lot of PS2 on this channel, believe it or not. I mean, it sounds like the 70s. That funkadelic feel. Wow, it's like straight funk. But like a certain kind of funk with like certain substances and yeah. Are we sure this isn't Parliament? I recorded this. Also, I don't know if Starsky and Hutch was like an American show, if it was in Europe or something. But I definitely heard of it, and I do remember the iconic Gran Torino car. What could be happening here, you know? Track 2? It's so early on. Main menu? Stage? What are you doing this game? Oh, I just noticed this is a PAL cover. I noticed that rating looks different than the one we're used to. Man, this song has such a flavor to it, like fuzzy carpets, round furniture, muscle cars, big poofy hats, DRUGS, the medicinal kind, too. Need a prescription for it. No, I'll wait till it's over so I can talk about it. This is just a jam. Like it can loop forever and it'll just be cool. Which is also giving me more of that menu feel. Like it's just meant to just. have a little things to say before we move on to track 5. So a couple of things here really stood out to me. Like I said, when I didn't even know who Tim Follin was a couple years ago, and then through this journey of finding video game songs, I was told about, well, him and his brother and the following that they have and the unique, like ahead of their time sound that they had. Like Plog and Pictionary and other stuff I can't think of, but I featured here and there. And I thought that I never knew how long the career was for either of them, but when I think of the Fallen Brothers, I think of specifically the mid-90s, like the SNES, maybe, I don't even know, but just like the 90s, right? Maybe even late 80s. I never would have expected to hear them in PS2, which let me know how long their career was, because I was not expecting that. So it's very interesting to hear his musical composition style with actual instruments. You know, those all sounded like, well, at least they didn't sound as hardcore bit like chiptune as they usually do. You know, before it seemed like he had that flavor, but it was so limited, but then cranked that limitation to its peak. Where here, like, by the PS2's time, you know, possibilities were endless. And it sounds like he was just kind of just doing what he wants to do, you know? Funny enough, I could imagine hearing that song in like the old chiptune days with him. Only him doing that, you know? But yeah, I wonder if he just went all out, like had a band or performed himself. I have no idea of his musical prowess, but that was cool. Also, the like I said, I don't know if it's exactly 70s. I'm guessing it is. I'm pretty sure it is, because like I said, I've seen the movie, and I don't remember if it ever says, but if you just see the movie, like in 2 seconds, you see how everybody's dressed and the way they talk, and you know, I just assume 70s. But the music is definitely on that. So I don't know if the music here is faithful to the game, or faithful to the era, or faithful to the series itself, or I guess both. And the only thing I can assume it is, based again on the movie, my only information is this movie, which is again pretty funny, is that it's a cop duo. But in the movie, it's like a comedy. Obviously, it's primarily a comedy. Of course, it has a little serious moment, but it's a comedy. And so I don't know if how faithful the movie is to the show, you know, or how faithful the game is to the show. I don't know if the show's serious, if there's any humor. I don't know. But it was nice hearing Tim Follin in the, well, I'm assuming the early 2000s. But yeah, cool. Very, very, very funk Parliament. You know, that kind of psychedelic rock, or just kind of like meant to just pretty much loop endlessly. A lot of wah guitar, a lot of bass, a lot of cool stuff. I think funk was really kind of the catalyst for a lot of genres we hear a lot today. I don't think it gets a lot of respect. People like it, you know, everyone knows of funk, but I feel like it just doesn't get enough love, and there's not enough, you know, appreciation for it, I guess. You just don't hear it. You hear it on a nostalgic, kind of charming face value of it, but you never hear about like the intricacies of musicianship and how, you know, they took groove and turned that into the genre itself, like the freedom of expression and just kind of, you know, having a good time. It's like made to make you smile and dance and move. So, you know, it's a lot more to think about. Anyways, this is track 5. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say is track 2. If I'm assuming the track goes by when they appear, I could only assume track 2 means menu, opening sequence, or intro movie, something like that. Track 5, a little longer, 5 minutes. Let's just go into it. Same thing. They really got the essence of the 70s. By the way, if it wasn't for funk and music like this, the boom and craze of the breakdancers of the 80s wouldn't have happened. You can hear the influence here. Look at any interview from like a breakdancer or a b-boy from the 80s and ask them who their inspiration was, and a lot of them will say James Brown, Cool Herc. They would essentially take this music, find the break in the record, and then just like this, right here. They would take this, the DJ would take this, and loop it endlessly to have the dance floor going. I'm telling you, man, funk is cool. Excuse me for eating, I was really hungry. It sounds like I'm watching the opening credits to like Cheech and Chong. That right there, look. Listen to the guitar. It has become a staple rhythmic technique in guitar, still used today. Popularized by Nile Rodgers, who's still around making music. Think of it this way. Look how many views and attention music like Persona gets. That's where I came from. Obviously, this is a PS2 game with Tim Follin, but it's clearly like 1970s funk inspired. So it's a lot more than just little obscure PS2 game soundtrack. I'm really hearing the history here. I'm hearing the Persona here. I'm hearing the other things. Tim Follin is. I didn't know he had that. I don't know he had that dog in him. You can tell how musical they were. Cheers to the Follin brothers. You can hear the jazz influence of funk too. The like free-form improv. I've always thought of funk as like a livelier jazz and more constructed as opposed to improv, even though they're not. There's kind of similarities. Of course, I have to mention the elephant in the room, the saxophone. Something I haven't mentioned yet is how mean the bass sounds here. You can just hear it like popping back there. He did such a good job of like recreating that decade. Yeah, that was sick. Those are great. So my question here is if this applies to you, feel free to answer. I don't want to ever, similar to how Twitch has lurkers, meaning the people that don't talk and just watch, how much streamers appreciate lurkers. I'm also very appreciative of like YouTube lurkers as well, the people that don't comment, they just watch and stuff. Not everybody comments, but excuse me if I bring you out of it. But if you were old enough to remember Starsky and Hutch, or maybe your parents or something. Like, let me know how faithful that was, or what memories you have of it. Did you play the game? Just whatever, anything you want to tell me about Starsky and Hutch. Go to our odd memories. Because I've seen my demographics, and mostly, I think my viewer base is like 25 to 40. But there's surprisingly a big amount of people like in their 50s and 60s as well. So, and it is also, just as a side note, very not related at all. Well, maybe with Tim Follin, but every now and then I'll get a comment on like something from the Commodore 64 or older, like those older 80s consoles that I've done here. And it's always someone, you know, like in like an older Generation X or even I don't even know what's after Gen X, but sorry. But it's nice because in a way, like the way they comment is like they're so appreciative. Like, man, I wish like YouTube or something was around when I was hearing this stuff. Because imagine hearing video game songs back then, you know, before the internet, before cell phones, before, I don't know, the 90s and whatever, that you couldn't really share this music with anybody. You had to have like a really specific friend group, or you know what I mean? Anyways. To me, this was really cool. Firstly, Torn's been waiting forever for this song, so my apologies there. But I just really appreciate this for one, the funk aspect of it. Like I said, funk is really underappreciated in my opinion. But also, in the same token, it is not a genre, at least in my opinion, that you can hear kind of constantly all day. It's like it just has its moments, you know, just like a I can't compare it to a food right now. I can't think of anything. Maybe like a damn, I don't know. What's something that you can only have like every now and then? Ugh. I'm drawing a blank. Whatever that case may be for you. I kind of see the same way as funk. Like, I love it, but I'm not going to listen to it like 24 hours a day, or even for like maybe even an hour straight. You know, it's just something that's really, really good and just kind of like its moments. And the first time hearing Tim Follin, I believe in my here on the channel and in my ears, I believe I've heard Tim. That was the first time I heard Tim Follin using a real instrument or composing with real instruments, which is really cool to hear because that's kind of the same style he was using even back then in some games, you know, just to show how like the technology caught up to him. So that's really, really cool. And also the fact that it's a PS2 game. Surprisingly, I have not done a lot of PS2 games here. I don't think it's that few, but it's definitely not that many, you know? And this is one of my favorite consoles. This is kind of like when I really was gaming the most was the PS2. I love my PS2. I don't know where the hell it is. I didn't sell it. I don't know where. I have no idea where it is. Maybe in some storage. But I loved the PS2, and that was right around the time that I stopped playing games and started getting into more guitar. So it's really cool seeing the PS2 here, to be honest. And yeah, I don't know. That was really cool. Track 2 and track 5. Don't know what those mean. But it was really nice to feature Starsky and Hutch here. And honestly, it's making me want to watch the movie again, which I haven't seen in like over, I don't know, 10, 15 years. It's I think it was Ben Stiller, Snoop Dogg, Owen Wilson, and what's that guy's name? Vince Vaughn. Yeah, I think. Right? I don't know, dude. I always confused. Like, there was like a moment in the 2000s where like it was like the same cast for a bunch of movies. Anyways, awesome, really cool funk. Oh, one more thing I was gonna say, the presence of funk and the staying power of funk is, well, it's not recent. It's kind of older now. But if you guys remember, there was a really big song from Pharrell Williams called "Happy." I know you've heard it probably. That was with Nile Rodgers, who's like pretty much like made that guitar technique, that funk technique, extremely popular. Some say he even invented it. I don't know. But if you've heard "Happy," that has Nile Rodgers all over it, and Daft Punk. Pretty stacked lineup on that song. Anyway, thank you to all the patrons you see on the screen. I couldn't be here without them. Thanks to you for watching. My name is Jesse in the auditorium. Later.